And within the university system, no, I must place the union in proper perspective for people to understand.
Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. The Supreme Court last Wednesday took close watchers of political developments in Rivers State by surprise when it upheld the election of Nyesom Wike of the People's Democratic Party as governor of the oil-rich state. Now, why is it a surprise? A lot of legal experts and political analysts had not given Wike any chance at all after he lost his case at both the Election Petition Tribunal and the Court of Appeal. In fact, the Court of Appeal judgment was a unanimous one, invalidating the election and ordering a rerun. But the nation's apex court saw things completely differently. The justices of the Supreme Court who actually heard the case unanimously ruled that Nyesom Wike was validly elected and that he remains the governor of Rivers State. Now, the justices, however, did not give reasons for their decision, saying they would have to do so by the 12th of February. Now, both local and international observers had been very critical of the Rivers State governorship election. The election also witnessed the largest amount of political violence, both in its build-up and, of course, after the election. So if there was one state most political analysts, I should say, had expected to see a rerun, it was Rivers State. Even Governor Wike himself, by some of his actions, had been preparing for a rerun before the Supreme Court verdict came. Well, he's a very happy man now, no doubt. Fact is that everyone has been saved from the hassles and expenses of holding another election. Governor Wike has described the court verdict as a victory for democracy, rule of law, and a confirmation of God's backing for his election as the governor of Rivers State. He said the judgment is a confirmation of the mandate freely given to him by the people of the state. He also asked the APC governorship candidate to join hands with him in developing the state. Now, the APC governorship candidate, Dakuku Peterside, has taken the judgment, if you like, with equanimity. He issued a statement asking his supporters to accept the judgment as the will of God. Now, part of his statement reads, and I quote, "We shall do our best for the peace and development of Rivers State and all who reside in it. We shall creatively offer our help to Governor Nyesom Wike. We'll provide a viral opposition serving as a mirror for the conscience of government in the interest of Rivers people." He goes further to add, the second quote now, "When encouragement is needed towards a just and proper course of dealings, we will offer our commendation to the government. Conversely, we will constructively express an objection to policies and actions we consider inimical to the overall interest of Rivers people." Now, adding, it is our hope that Governor Wike and his team will appreciate the suggestions and proposals that would be made in the interest of Rivers people. If we sometimes sound strident, you should pay heed to the message of passionate and zealous Rivers people rather than dismiss the messenger. End of quote. Could this victory now in Rivers State now represent a bounce and resurgence for the PDP? Joining me right now to discuss this is lawyer and political analyst Chima Nnaji. Mr. Nnaji, thank you very much for joining us on the program. First of all, a lot of political analysts, a lot of legal analysts got this wrong. What happened? Because a lot of people had said, look, when the Court of Appeal came out with that unanimous judgment, that it was just difficult to see how the Supreme Court was going to overturn it. But it happened.
Well, it is not a very big surprise. The only thing is that because the Supreme Court had the opportunity to pronounce on this particular matter, hopes were not foreclosed for those who were supporting Nyesom Wike, as he said in a number of outings too. On the same side, the APC people were also believing that there will be consistency since they succeeded in the tribunal and they also succeeded in appeal, that it was going to be a free ride too. So, but the whole thing depends on what divide, but the law remains the same, because some of the grounds had to do with the issue of the voter, machine, this the card reader, yes. And the Supreme Court had, even before now, made a pronouncement on the status of a card reader in the elections as they stand now. And it's unfortunate for those people whose cases had to terminate at the appeal court, and by now they are licking their wounds because they cannot go further. But that, with hindsight now, appears to be a case of injustice, a miscarriage of justice. It certainly was an issue, and if that is also factored in, you find that the Supreme Court had the opportunity on one or two other cases to say that the card reader, yes, was good enough to have been deployed, but is not one of the grounds on which an election can be, an electoral process can be truncated or election declared, invalid or something like that. But the Supreme Court will be coming out with the reason or the ratio decidendi in February, as it has stated, and we are all looking forward to that. But definitely, some of the issues canvassed that there were violence and all that. If you say there were violence, you have to also think about how effectively was it canvassed at the trial, the level, where the tribunals, because there is a radius within which, if the violence took place, would be considered to have substantially or to have the capacity of substantially affecting the outcome of the result of that election. But if it didn't happen within a particular radius, it's going to be difficult for you to prove that. Then again, you also have to look at certain documents. If you say that the election did not take place, he who asserts also has to prove. It is not a matter of the campaign on the newspaper or quoting some observers that the observers said it was not right. The court will deal with what evidence is before it. And that's where some people misunderstand the judicial process. The courts are not for the Christmas if you do not effectively canvass your case within the confines of the law. And you see, the issue of electoral violence is a criminal issue, and you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt all the elements that you claim actually took place. So, but like we say, we should be looking forward to that February 12th, and the Supreme Court will come out with its ratios.
Okay, let us leave the legal side now and look at the political side of things. Some people have said, look, what the Supreme Court has done is to save us the trouble of conducting another election that a lot of people would say that they would know what the outcome of that election would have been, because a lot of people would tell you that, look, even if there was a rerun in that state, the PDP was still going to take it because it's a stronghold of the PDP. Do you share that view that the Supreme Court has saved us, from making unnecessary expenses and the hassles of conducting a rerun election?
Well, let me start by answering that question by saying that it probably might be a rebuttable presumption that once an election is, if the election were to have been repeated, that PDP must take it. It doesn't necessarily play out that way. Otherwise, the apprehension of all the parties involved will not have been there, because anything can happen. Election is like an exam. The most brilliant may fail the exam, not because he doesn't know, but something may have happened on the spot of the exam, which he probably did not envisage. Now, going forward to the issue of whether it's saved, yes, definitely. This country cannot afford unnecessary rerun of elections. It is expensive on the part of the candidates or parties to the election. It's expensive on the part of INEC that is using our national patrimony to fritter away the second time, and there's no guarantee that that second time will still be right. So somehow the court has saved the country a lot of revenue and all the political brouhaha. Remember again, the violence, if it was alleged that there was violence in the first instance, perhaps it would have doubled now because so much more would have been at stake. And then again, you have to look at the issue of the positions of candidates, the power structure as they have taken place, and then the acrimony would have escalated all the more. Because all it takes that if you think that your opponent is very popular, you contrive violence in his area so that election will be cancelled, and that will be ad infinitum, because it will repeat itself, and this country will not be able to accommodate that kind of unnecessary costs. So to that extent, I think it's a welcome development insofar as there was no sacrifice of justice in order to save revenue. So that is my own position.
What do you make of the reaction now of the APC governorship candidate accepting the verdict and, of course, saying that he would support the governor and that, that he was letting things go?
I think that is a most mature way to take things. Because after the Supreme Court verdict for now, except in future, you approach the court that say that there were some other things that you want them to reverse, want it to reverse itself. For now, that is the end of the litigation on that matter. And the most mature position is what he has taken so far. And that is the making of mature politics. You don't continue to fight. There's an end to fight. He has done his best by going through the whole hog, trying to exercise his right. He exhausted his right in terms of the judicial process. And this is time to rebuild, because the Rivers people cannot afford to continue to waste time while other parts of the country are going forward. So it is very mature and commendable that he will not want to, for his own personal interest, to sacrifice the interest of the larger society. So I will want him to walk the talk, and Wike also to be magnanimous in victory. After all, they are all Rivers people. It's only politics that have been played, and this is now time for governance. And he is governor to everybody in Rivers State. So he must have a large heart, and he should take criticism in his stride, and critics should be magnanimous in being objective, so that you don't fritter away time on unnecessary distractions.
Anyway, I shouldn't say finally now, but let me quickly ask you this. Do you think this could represent some kind of bounce for the PDP, that the PDP could use this victory now to relaunch itself nationally?
PDP could do with additional states. There's no doubt about that. I think this is a very big boost for the morale of PDP, especially given the state involved. Rivers State is a very strategic state in this country, and for PDP to have still retained it, I think it's a plus for the party. But they still need to do quite a lot more, because that party has an albatross, both in terms of image. Unfortunately, the people who caused the damage to the party are no longer in that party. So many of them have left the party, but they left the party comatose in terms of the iniquities they inflicted on the party and on the country through the activities when they were in that party and when they were in positions of authority. So I believe they now have to do a lot more to wean themselves of all those albatross, and then begin a new journey in opposition, constructive opposition, to begin to make themselves look attractive, that perhaps they are not down and out.
Okay, because you talked about the leadership of the PDP, there's something we're going to play before so that you listen to. We're talking about the leadership crisis now in the PDP. Over the week, we saw Ahmed Gulak, the former political advisor now to former President Goodluck Jonathan, stormed the PDP National Secretariat that he was assuming leadership of the party, citing the court order, of course, the court case he actually won some time ago. We're going to get that sound bite. But you look at the leadership crisis now rocking the PDP. What's your take?
Well, I think these are some of the internal wranglings that the party can ill afford at this very trying time. But perhaps this is one of those nemesis too, because like I said, some people had done damages to the party, and this is somehow a payback time. a lot of people have suffered under the PDP as it used to be. Unfortunately, when the PDP under Jonathan came up, there seemed to have been a more emphasis on some measure of due process. Perhaps also because the opposition was shaping things up then. But unfortunately, the damage had been done. So many people no longer trusted the party as capable of reinventing itself in the circumstance it found itself, given the unilateral ways they used to do things under previous leadership of the party. So at this particular moment, this is not the kind of thing the party should be going through. But if it is process of the exorcism, maybe so that they can come out better, because it is through crisis, through the ashes of crisis, that a new thing, comes up. So maybe they will be able to quickly and effectively resolve this internal crisis, whether it is internally brewed or instigated. They should look at it and see how to effectively handle the matter without escalating it.
Okay, let me just pause you there now, and let's take a listen to Ahmed Golak now, why he decided to take the action he took. Let's listen to him, and then when we come back, I want to get your reaction.
In the first place, if you have followed this issue, Dr. Adamu Maazu, the earthward chairman of our party from the northeast geopolitical zone of this country, resigned his position as the national chairman on the 20th day of May 2015. By our constitution, section 47 subsection 6, a person from the same zone must be appointed by the party. From May 20th till September, secondus, Uche secondus, have been acting. He is not from the northeast. He is from the south-south, to be precise, River State. Okay, I went there severally to indicate my interest that I want to replace Maazu. They did not take action. I went to court to challenge the continued acting of Uche Secondus, who is not from the northeast. And on the 16th day of December, the court gave judgment that his continued acting as national chairman is null and void, and that within 14 days, they should appoint me or any other person from the northeast. 14 days expired on the 29th day of December 2015. Nobody came up from the northeast. I was the only person that have come up to be appointed. Now, they filed stay of execution of the court judgment. Today, the matter came up, and their motion for stay of execution was struck out, leaving by legal implication that I am now the chairman. That was why, like everybody says, nature opposes vacuum. Okay. And by legal implication, I am the chairman, and I had to assume duty as the national chairman in order to prevent our party being headless.
Mr. Naji, I mean, obviously the PDP can do without this kind of crisis, and the way it is now, it would appear the party has, should I say, two chairmen, because even though the governors of the party have actually come out to say to dismiss Ahmed Golak, but the fact is that he's armed with a court document.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the details of the reliefs and what the court actually finally granted in terms of what Golak was saying. To that extent, I will only rely on the claim he has made. The party the governors have come and said they will get somebody who is neither the Golak nor the current, the secondary group, and that by the constitution, the national secretary should take over the leadership of the party for now, while they work on that. And of course, the National Working Committee of the party also came up and said that there has not been any change in leadership. So all these things are cacophonies of the problem that is going on in the party, which I said it may not be very good for them and they should work hard to avoid it being escalated. And I believe that perhaps they can get somebody to prevail on Gulak. If he has that order, then maybe he has the right to go back to the court to say that, or enable the court to help him enforce it. He may not unilaterally embark on self-help. If an order is made, is not obeyed, there are due processes of getting that resolved. However, the party had agreed that the chairman, the national chairman of the party, will naturally come from this northeast. And then they are now saying that some people in the northeast are meeting to get a leadership that they endorse. Whether eventually it will be Gulak or whether Gulak was just trying to be a little bit more preemptive, we will see. But I think it is not good for the country generally, not only PDP, that the PDP, the only credible, viable opposition party now, that could form a rally for the other parties to aggregate, in an opposition manner, should be so fragmented by some internal squabbles. So I think they should act quickly and address the issue. If the court indeed asks that they should hand over to Gulak and they don't want it, they can appeal. So, but I mean, that is the due process. You don't have to do things the way you like it. It is when the circumstance presents itself, you must follow the due process. And that is the rule of law.
Well, Mr. Naji, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Well, we'll take a short break now. And when we come back, former President Goodluck Jonathan has said he is not going to speak on the Dasuki Gate arms scandal, at least not for now. But find out what people are saying about that. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.